Okay, this is kind of part 2 of the DBQ worksheet sample for prompt A. We have already talked about how to identify the categories, especially if they are given to you in the prompt, how to jot down the main idea of each document, and then how to assign various different documents to the categories. And so we answered the question in each category, which is what stating a claim means. Only look at those documents and then answer the question, how did things change? Only looking at these two documents, we talked about how the economic relationship changed, coming up with this claim. We only looked at these 4 documents to talk about how the ideological relationship changed, and we came up with that claim. And so we put all those things together in a working thesis. And so this is right now our thesis statement. After the French and Indian War, the political relationship between Britain and its American colonies became restrictive, and the economic relationship was strained since the colonists resented paying higher taxes. The ideological relationship transformed since the colonists resisted British rule and caused them to create a separate identity. And so for the rest of the DBQ worksheet, you would just discuss how each document supports your thesis, and then you generate something called SFI, specific factual information, and that's kind of used to give your argument validity. And so document A, we put that in the political category. And so notice I've highlighted the word because. This section, you are trying to provide support for your thesis. We stated that the political realm became more restrictive. So why did it become more restrictive? Well, in document A, the colonists could not move west of the Appalachian Mountains. In document B, we assigned document B to the economic category. And so here, because military protection was required to the American colonies, the increased taxes to fund the armed forces the increased taxes, yes, to fund the armed forces led to higher taxes. Yeah, we'll say the increased revenue, so it won't be redundant. Okay, so next, document C, we also put that with economics. So here in interpretive commentary, we are giving a little more details. The Stamp Act, Congress heavily protested the Stamp Act, which raised taxes, and they were able to successfully repeal the act. Here, document D, various events. We put this one in the political category, such as the Stamp Act and the Trade and Navigation Acts were restrictive. And that's because the economic affairs of the colonists were we'll say reduced. So this is not redundant. So anyway, here in document E, we have to provide interpretive commentary on how the document by the Daughters of Liberty, how did that one in some way strain the ideological relationship. So the Daughters of Liberty resisted British rule by boycotting British cloth and other goods. So obviously, to boycott or refuse to import something, you have a changed perception of that entity because you're no longer trading with them. Document F about the Sons of Liberty. So you just provide a little more details. Here in interpretive commentary, the Sons of Liberty likely conducted the Boston Tea Party resisted British rule through their destruction of 114 chests of tea, and they also demonstrated a separate cultural identity by dressing up as American Indians. This next document, document G, the American colonists expressed their discontent and feelings of not having the rights and privileges of Englishmen, which demonstrated their differing ideological views. Here we are proving or even really explaining the ways in which the ideological views are changing. And so we're given some detail here because they felt as if they didn't have the same privileges as Englishmen. And so the last one, document H, the document, the excerpt by King George III, the speech he made to Parliament about the colonists. Because King George III was in denial of American oppression, this demonstrates differing ideological views. It's as if they were almost on completely separate pages. So when it's time to generate SFI, when you're doing the DBQ worksheet, you come up with 5 different pieces for each document. And if you were to write the full essay, you only need 15 pieces for the entire essay. But just for the sake of organizing a DBQ worksheet, you generate a total of 40 pieces of SFI. And it's okay if some documents share SFI, like if the same one, you have the same piece of SFI for document A that you have for document D or something. That's completely okay. But these are just some examples of pieces of SFI. And a lot of these um, I made up using something called association chains. So, for instance, with document A, the French and Indian War would be a great piece of SFI because this is the territorial map, the boundaries that were changed after the French and Indian War. After I came up with the French and Indian War, then I came up with the Proclamation of 1763. Notice how none of these things are referenced on the document or explicitly in the document. And so that's what we mean by outside information. It's not referenced in the document, but you use your background knowledge to, in some way, discuss relevant topics of the document. Also, the Treaty of Paris of 1763, that's the treaty that ended the war. That's not mentioned in the document, but it relates to the theme. Pontiac's Rebellion, that's going to be the series of Indian wars that occur in this Ohio area after the English colonists tried to move westward. And then, because I thought of Pontiac's Rebellion, that brought me to the Treaty of Greenville, which was the treaty that ended the these are a series of wars here led by Chief Little Turtle. And so the Treaty of Greenville is going to end that warfare between the Native Americans and the English in this Ohio River Valley area. It's the Battle of Fallen Timbers, the battle that will actually break out. So anyway, and I kind of did that for each document, came up with 5 pieces of related historical information, or kind of like vocabulary words. So for document B, George Grenville, he was the treasurer, kind of like the head of the treasury, rather, of Parliament when all of these taxes were being passed. Why are they passing the taxes? Well, to pay for the French and Indian War. What other means are they taking that are perceived as oppressive or restrictive by the colonies? The Navigation Acts of 1763, Sugar Act, Stamp Act, all of those were means of oppression. Document C, other pieces of SFI, the Stamp Act, no taxation without representation, James Otis, First Continental Congress, Second Continental Congress, all of those were terms that related to the themes of those documents, but they were not mentioned in the document. Document D, the Albany Plan of Union, Ben Franklin, Trade and Navigation Acts, John Hancock, Stamp Act, all of those are associated pieces of SFI, and there's so many others. These are just a few. For document E, Sons of Liberty, Sam Adams, Committees of Correspondence, Paul Revere, the non-importation agreements. And so those all kind of have a related theme of protest, also organized resistance. This next document, document F, a few examples. Here, Sons of Liberty. Notice how that's a duplicate of document E, but that's completely fine. Boston Massacre, Crispus Attucks, Boston, the British East India Tea Company, and also the Boston Harbor. So just an example of how to, again, create the association chain. When you go to document F, this document is a letter about the Boston Tea Party. And so because it was about the Boston Tea Party, I first thought of, okay, well, who was responsible for the Boston Tea Party? Well, then I thought of Sons of Liberty automatically. Well, What other events angered the colonists in addition to the Boston Tea Party? Well, thought of the Boston Massacre. That's another event that angered the colonists. Well, after I brainstormed the Boston Massacre, that then took me to Crispus Attucks. He was the first to die in the Boston Massacre. Going back to the Tea Party, well, what other entities were affiliated with the Boston Tea Party? Well, the British East India Tea Company. Um, that's the organization, or that's the company rather, that the Sons of Liberty, or whoever the perpetrators were that were overthrowing the tea, that's who they were kind of protesting. After I brainstormed the Boston East, or rather the British East India Tea Company, then I came up with the Boston Harbor. That's the location where the Boston Tea Party occurred. So notice none of those things are referenced in the document. None of those specific pieces of factual information, but they are in some way related to either the theme of the document, or the people that were involved, or other means of discontent. They all, in some way, have some kind of umbrella association. So for document G, pieces of SFI are terms such as the non-importation agreements, the Second Continental Congress, Olive Branch Petition, Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. All of those are in some way related or have association chains of relation. And then document H, British Parliament, George Grenville, Olive Branch Petition, Declaration of Independence, American Revolution. All of those things are in some way related. So that's pretty much how you do an example DBQ worksheet. If you had no idea, that's how you do it. The hardest part, of course, is the thesis statement, but you can only do the thesis statement after you have broken down the prompt and you figure out, okay, what various different things is the prompt asking, what is the main idea of each document, and then how do you organize each document thematically and somehow assign it to a category label. In this example, the categories were given to you. You answer the question in each category. That then becomes the fragmented pieces of your thesis. You put those category claims together, and that is your thesis. Hardest part of the worksheet. The more you practice it, the better you become with organizing it. All right, and that's it for that.